My name is Peter, recovered alcoholic. Grateful to be alive and sober, part of a sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And again, thank the group for having me. It's about 10 weeks now. It's funny, you start these things and you look at 12 weeks in front of you, think they're going to last forever, and then they're pushing you out to bring somebody else in. So I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for your very kind hospitality. Every time we walk in here, it's a pretty cool deal. It's a neat place to be on a Tuesday night. We look forward to getting up here. June 23rd of 1988 is when the loving God separated me from alcohol, and very grateful for this gift of sobriety. Very grateful for many things. The older I'm getting, and the longer I stay sober. I've shared this from a million podiums. Your point of view on so many things changes on truly what's important and what isn't. And I attribute that to waking up spiritually, being in this deal for a while, and trying to live in the truth a day at a time. My home group was No Problems, Just Solutions in Boca Raton. And we meet on Wednesday nights at 7:30, and I love being a member of that group. Thus far, we did a long walk so far through the steps, starting back with step one and what it took for me to wake up and get in here and get surrendered by God on June 23rd of 88, and what ensued, a lot of heavy lifting, coming to terms with what I really am. I thought I had an understanding of alcoholism after 7 treatment centers, but I really got a clear understanding of what alcoholism is with the sponsor going through the book, specifically the first 53 pages, and understanding how deep the roots of alcoholism go, and that my alcoholism doesn't come in a bottle of whiskey. And I thought it did for a long time. With 7 treatment centers and a couple of short-lived moments in AA, I thought the substance itself, alcohol, was the problem. And if I didn't drink, I'd have no problem. And I wasn't drinking, and I had worse problems. I had nothing to pour on my alcoholism, which bubbled right to the surface. And even though I was in here, it was 6 months, I almost got drunk. I was still seeing and hearing and speaking and behaving through alcoholism. And that was not a good place to be. And so what alcoholism does is go underground and resurfaces in a lot of other areas. And they're the food sprees and the sex sprees and the gambling sprees, etc. And I got caught up in the food thing, and it was getting dangerous, so dangerous. My sponsor, unbeknownst to me, was in another fellowship for food, OA. And he took me there. We went through the steps in that fellowship, how to seek outside help, because I was starting to get very sick with the food binges. I was binging and purging. I would be sitting on my couch, and there was not a cloud on the horizon, the end of a perfect day, and the impulse to go put my fingers down my throat and seek relief that way. I felt in control, I felt relief, I felt okay doing that. And as I say, that sounds completely bizarre, but isn't picking up a drink after a time of sobriety just as bizarre? So it's just alcoholism coming in a lot of different forms, and I had to get that arrested a day at a time, and I'm happy to report to you, other than having a belly that doesn't always work well, I haven't done anything like that in a very, very long time. And so I'm grateful for the outside help I got, another fellowship, and my sponsor being completely transparent. I didn't even know he was in another fellowship besides AA. And so the journey began, and the 4 through 9 was really a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of force feeding of humility, a lot of ego deflation, which is necessary. What I need to be doing here is to starve the ego and feed the soul, and my mind wants to do the opposite. So much of, if not everything I do here, we get to do here, is counterintuitive. It's against what I grew up with. It's against how I learned to operate out there. It's complete deflation of the ego. I don't know if the ego ever get completely deflated, but I think we've made a good start by walking into Alcoholics Anonymous. I heard an old-timer say one time, the toughest step to take in AA is the doorstep, just walking in here. Sitting in the parking lot for your first AA meeting and seeing us outside, and you can't walk in, I'll go tomorrow and drive away. I don't know what to expect. And so somewhere in 4 and 5, I remember really uncovering things about me that I didn't even know was there. You know, the way we find the truth is by discovering all the lies. And so we're on this fact-finding mission. For what? To discover the obstacles in my path. Now, I couldn't interpret that. I couldn't articulate it that way back then. But I just knew there was a lot of stuff under the surface I couldn't even put my finger on. I just knew I was not okay. I'm making meetings. We were doing, at the time, 2 and 3 a days. We'd make a noon meeting. We'd make a late afternoon meeting. We hit a double header in the afternoon. We'd make a night meeting, do a double header at night. We're living in the rooms, a bunch of us, little road dogs going to meetings together. I had running guys out there, running guys in here. And I'm putting my head on the pillow at night and I'm still vibrating. There's a lot of angst, a lot of stuff going on. And I'm saying I'm making meetings. I don't know what's wrong. But it was going through the work the very first time that knot began to loosen a little bit. I started to understand how I'm operating, which was wrong. And I started to have this great need and see the need for a relationship with this power called God. No human power could relieve me of my alcoholism, but God could and would if he was sought. So I'm on this mission. And the human power, quite frankly, is a group of drunks for good holy direction, which I use, but I couldn't hold on to that. I couldn't, because it was a bunch of human powers. And you go home at night, and I'm stuck with me and my mind and my thinking and all the false selves that are going on, the ones God never created. And I'm paying attention to them and all the narrative they're supplying for me. And I'm not okay. While I'm making a lot of meetings that I can't rely on the human power. The love of my children or love of a spouse or a sibling is not going to keep me sober. I mean, we've heard the stories. I can look at my little child's eyes and say, I'm never drinking because of you. I don't want to hurt you. And an hour later, we're blind drunk. It's a human power. It'll last so long. And a real alcoholic knows exactly what I'm talking about. A moderate drinker, if you're sitting here, a hard drinker thinks I'm Looney Tunes. A real alcoholic knows exactly what I'm talking about. So how do I start this journey? Well, 4 through 9 is going to bring death to self-will and life to the spirit. I'm getting soul food on this journey. And I start to become very attracted to spiritual information. When on page 55 and page 75, it talks about the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. That's a shift, a huge shift. Where I'm interested in this God guy. I'm interested in spiritual literature. I want to pray more. I want to be like those old timers who were sure there was a God operating in their life. There was very little or no doubt. How do you get there? I was interested in the practice of meditation, very much unlike when I walked in here. So there was a shift that was happening. And the 11th step it calls is God consciousness. We're awake to God. And we start little by slowly. I look. We live life forward and understand it backwards. I look back on it and I'm realizing, every time that I started to hear different. Lots of times I don't know what God's will is because I stopped listening. I stopped looking for it. But I start to see things with God's eyes. We go beyond what the eyes see. We go beyond what the ears hear. Because it is God conscious, this awakened spirit. And it's just the pilot light's been turned on and there's a shift at how I'm operating throughout the day. And it comes down to very simple things. God's will, love, tolerance, forgiveness, respect, honor, caring, charity. I mean, it's so simple. We're looking for some esoteric, God's will. I found it. It's in the back of the room under a desk. I found it. Don't tell anybody. It's simple stuff I learned in kindergarten. But I've gotten so far away from that. That's the block. I've gotten so far into my own design for living, I move far away from God. And that can happen to me while I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous with double-digit sobriety. I'm going down a path I know I need to follow to get there, to arrive, to be a success. And it's the very same path that's pulling me further and further and further away from God. And then I got a double vodka in my hands. How to get here? I start to worship other things instead of God. I go to God to keep me sober. I'm looking for other places to keep me happy. God isn't real. I'm worshiping my reputation. I'm worshiping my money or what I drive or where I live. And it's all playing to this false sense of self that demands I go there. And it's always insecure. It's always feeble. It's always weak. So I need more. Because inwardly I know it's nothing. And the mind has me in its grip, and I'm not going to let go of that and turn in order to go out. Turn back to this power regardless of how much shoveling I got to do and how much digging I got to do. The desperation is not there. I think I can arrive by achieving something out there. And I learned a long time ago, external conditions are never a remedy for this internal illness I have called alcoholism. But God could and would if he was so. What am I doing to seek? So last week we touched on step 10, and we talked to, I think I was talking about the inventory process, how important that is to keep up to date, to stay current with inventory. It's a bulldozer for all the things that get in my way. But there's more to step 10. On page 85, it says it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. I didn't know what laurels meant when I got here. I went to the University of 86th Street in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, so I didn't know what laurels meant. I had to look it up in the dictionary. Laurels were my accomplishments I did yesterday. So it says it's easy to let up on a spiritual program of action and rest on my accomplishments. Like a lot of us, I was one of them. I got done with my 5th step. I felt like I got my stripes to walk into AA. I can measure up with the older guys. I'm really in AA. So let's put the car in park now. Do a really good talk or have a great weekend. I'm good. And what I start to do if I'm not careful is worship my emotions. I worship my feelings. And I'm a comfort seeker rather than a God seeker. I need to be comfortable. And the very things I think from my mind that I'm going to get me comfortable, they're the very same things that'll get me to a place I'm really uncomfortable again. It's not God's will. You know, what's going to make me comfortable is a fat bank account, a big house, a new car. And God says, no, you're going to get drunk. What I need you doing is taking a job in the Salvation Army. Well, that's not my plan. I know God's will, but my mood looks a little bit better today, so I think I'll follow that. It says, I'm not cured of alcoholism. Now, the 10th step says the problem has been removed, but the problem has been removed, but the truth about the problem is always going to be there. I'm once an alkie, always an alkie. It says, I'm not cured of alcoholism. What I have is a daily reprieve or a daily stay of execution that quite frankly hinges on the condition of my spirit. What am I doing to care for the soul? Am I in a place where I think I can start skipping prayer in the morning because I feel good? I had a great night last night. I've been doing good. I'm too busy. Now, I don't know what it's like to have children. I don't have any children. But a lot of men I've sponsored over the years have children. And so when the kids get up for school at, say, 7 o'clock, and it's hard to pray, I says, well, time out. I says, I don't know what it's like to raise kids, but why can't you get up at 6:30? Because if Flacco was waiting with a bag of dope on the corner, you'd be up at 4. And as far as the kids going to school, until you get even, you don't care. So that's not a good one. Do I think I'm as an alcoholic, I can start skipping prayer or inventory or going out without a sponsor? And I start to drift away from step 1. And one thing about these steps, they will drive me deeper into step 1 about my powerlessness and the need for power. And that's been my experience. It says, I have some marching orders, I have a warning here, and I have some promises, all in a few sentences. And Bill writes this, every day is a day I must carry the vision of God's will into all my activity. That's a command, I must. And the only way I'm going to get a hint of what God's vision is for me for the day is by having a relationship with God and having conscious contact with God, going into prayer, going into silence. There's something in Scripture that says, this is the carpenter speaking, what I tell you in the dark, speak in the light. What I whisper in your ear, proclaim from the rooftops. I got to pay attention and then go talk about it. Participate, cultivate, and cooperate with this power called God. And not be afraid if it's not embraced. It's okay. You don't want to hear about God, you can walk out. I hope you don't, and I hope you come back in, but I'm not going to hide God in the closet because someone gets offended. It's because you're offendable. Out there right now, God is a bad word. My job is to make it sacred and hear and talked about. One drunk, a spoke in a wheel, but I'm not going to hide them in the closet. In fact, I've had newcomers come to me, counting days, and how do you do this? You need a God in your life, and they kind of back up. You want me to hide the truth? If I, God forbid, got wheeled into an emergency room with a gaping wound, I want the doctor to say, listen, this is going to hurt, so we'll wait till next week. No, fix it. Now, I don't care how much it hurts. Fix it. Every day is a day must carry the vision of God's will to my activities. How can I serve you? How can I serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. That's a prayer. Show me how to carry the vision of your will to my activities. Your will, not mine, be done. And lots of times I want my will and not God's will. My will looks a lot better today. It sounds easy. And sometimes God's will, when we're in line with God, it's warm and fuzzy and there's butterflies and rainbows. And sometimes it isn't. I can't gauge my spiritual condition on comfortability, because anyone will tell you who's been around for a while, waking up is beautiful, but on the way there, it'll annoy you sometimes. It'll make you uncomfortable. It's a narrowing that goes on and a removing of a lot of things. I kind of got to get in spiritual shape. I was none of these things when I showed up, and I'm still, quite frankly, a work in progress. Please, if you're new, and I'm sharing this, don't think like I'm all glossy and everything's cool and I have no issues. I got issues. It's you. No, I'm only kidding. I'm a work in progress, but at least it's a work in progress. Rather than waiting for, don't leave till the miracle happen. Newcomers, you're here. The miracle is happening. What am I gonna do with this gift that AA and God has put in your lap? Watch it. It gets old. These are thoughts which must go with me constantly, not when it's convenient. This was told to me by my sponsor. If spirituality doesn't touch every single area of my life, it touches none of my life. It go with me constantly, which means I can't be Moses here and Rambo out there. It needs to be consistent. If you see me in Publix, I'm the same guy here. Yeah? Alcoholism doesn't come in a bottle of whiskey. It sits up in the mind. The only thing that's going to defeat that is the soul. God fears nothing. God always wins. Just as an example, this planet is upside down right now. There's more violence than I've seen ever. And I find, I guess the right word is refuge, knowing God's going to win. Whatever it looks like, He's going to win. He always wins. And He's the only one who defeats my alcoholism. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If I've carefully followed direction, have I been painstaking about this phase of my development with great care? Or have I done the steps cafeteria style? I've begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into me. Something's happening. Something's changing. I'm feeling light lately. Feel good about today. I still have the same job. I don't make a lot of money. I don't have a bunch of new stuff, but something just feels right. What's happening, and I think with my story, suddenly there was an undercurrent of okayness. It wasn't gloom and doom like what's it going to be today. No matter what was going on out there, there was an undercurrent of I'm going to be okay. I don't know how, and I don't know when. I just know I'm going to be okay. That just happens organically. Information alone is not going to produce that. Information with some action becomes a transformation, and suddenly I begin to sense the flow of God's Spirit into me. Oh my God, I'm not a loser in God's eyes. There's an actor, a very religious man, and he says something. I saw this little clip of an interview. He says, down here you may not be a star in Hollywood, there may be no red carpet and paparazzi, but in God's eyes, that's who you are. You're a star. Very special. My mind wants no part of that thought, because my mind wants me drinking and doing dope and being on the streets and hustling and pen. That's what the mind loves. Or if I'm in here, it wants drama. It likes activity. It doesn't like stillness. And God brings stillness. God brings an okayness. God brings, I'm going to be okay. It's messy out there. I'm okay. And I start to sleep at night. And the cool thing is, I'm not thinking about drinking anymore. This is a miracle. That's why the miracle has happened. If you're here and you got one day tonight or counting days and you haven't drank, this miracle has happened. Because, I'll take a risk here, most of us, based on our track rate, are not supposed to be sitting here with double-digit sobriety. Left to our own devices, we wouldn't even be alive. When the big book says the age of miracles are still with us, look to your left, look to your right. Okay, got it. Got it. To some extent, I've become God conscious. We've begun to develop this vital sixth sense, and we must go further. That means more action. Vital sixth sense. I was taught in school 5. Most of us, 5 senses. I had a sponsor, Mark, who sat me down one time. He says, Money, let's talk about this for a minute. And I knew it was going to be a long talk. And when he got like that, I'd take a pen and paper, start writing. He says, you were taught 5 senses in school. That's a lie. They lied to you. Because the book says we're going to begin to develop this vital, life-giving, like a vital organ, sixth sense. What is that? I took a shot. He says, God. He says, exactly. The 5 senses he showed me, and I thought about my life, it's so true. The 5 senses I'm born with does a good job of separating me from you. Well, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to go over here. Or they're not into the big book, I'm going to go over there. I don't like what I'm hearing, so I'm going to go there. I don't like these people who are maybe the wrong political party, so I'm going to go here. And all this 5 senses can do is separate us from each other. The 6th sense brings them all together, and I start to operate from a godly place. So instead of separation, it's integration. The vital 6th sense is I'm operating, if you will, on a godly plane, even though I'm not God. We are. We see it all the time. We go right past it. A new guy walks in a room and the meeting's over and there's 1 or 2 guys sitting with that drunk, even in the parking lot. Everyone's gone home. Honey, I'm going to be about an hour late because there's a drunk here. I need to talk to them. I will pick you up tomorrow. Where do you live? I don't know where you live. I'll come get you and I'll take you to a meeting and I'll introduce you to folks, and then you come into the diner with us and don't worry about money. This is godly work. Prior to that, I'm scanning a room and hoping someone leaves a pocketbook or a wallet so I can take it. I mean, how many of us have, go to Publix and they give you too much money back and say, you gave me the wrong change? That's godly stuff. It's the exact opposite of how I used to live. This vital 6th sense, vital, it's like a heart, an organ that I need. Without it, I die. Vital 6th sense. This is a must. Now, I can't make that happen on my own. I can't, pray for it to happen. There's some things I need to do. It's called the death of self for successful living. Once I'm out of the way, if you will, suddenly the Spirit, I can feel the Spirit like a river flowing. And I have my days where I get my own way. And the mind has me. And I always remember, I don't have thoughts. They have me right now. They don't want to let go. And it's not about resisting them or thinking of positive affirmations. What I need to do is turn in order to go out, turn into who I'm one with. And it doesn't make me better than anyone or special. And it's not pretentious to say that. It's just factual. The way you are, one with who? God, who fears nothing. This is all the mind. Because one thought leads to 2 thoughts, leads to 10 thoughts, leads to 20 thoughts, leads to a drink. And that's what I need to know. I'm alcoholic. I drink whiskey. That's what I do. When I drink whiskey, I eat pills. And I drink whiskey and eat pills, I got a syringe, a needle in my arm again, and here we go. And it takes 20 minutes for it to happen. I'm an alcoholic. I drink alcohol. But what God could, he was sought. And I get free of all of it. So for me, step 10 and 11, step 10 is about a page and a half of an incredible lesson in spirituality. You go to Barnes and Nobles or go online, there's books, there's volumes. And Bill throws a page and a half in step 10 that can flip my life as I'm cleaning up amends. And all I have to do is just follow instructions with the sponsor and follow the instructions. I think I shared last week that step 10, some of us don't write it, some of us write it. I'm not glued to a notepad, but at the beginning, we would write this throughout the day, a 10 step. What am I disturbed about? What am I resentful about? What am I fearful about? Pen to paper. Discuss it with someone immediately. See if I owe an amends. Love and tolerance of others is our code. How can I practice love and tolerance of others when I'm consumed with me? I can't. If I'm not doing 10 and 11, all the stuff that my head is filling me with becomes paramount to I get immersed in all of that. And I'm what we always call, I'm jammed up again. I got a head full of stuff. It's going on again, having a bad day. And we hear it. I'm in my head. But if I'm writing inventory, the stuff is going to come, but I have enough muscles to keep it there and keep the space between me and it. It doesn't own me anymore because I'm back to God. I'm turning in order to go out. If I don't turn in, I'll turn without. I'll go without. Step 11. I was warned a long time ago by a sponsor that the nightly review, the nightly 11 step, Bill starts off at night and then goes to the day in the big book. This is when we retire at night. I was warned that that's the first practice you're gonna lose if you're not careful. Some of us work a lot, some of us are raising children, we're tired. That's understandable. Some of us are working 2 jobs. And sometimes I get home from an airport, I land here in Fort Lauderdale at 11 o'clock at night. On a Sunday. Ugh. You ever been to Fort Lauderdale at 11 o'clock on a Sunday? It's not good there on a Tuesday afternoon, but 11 o'clock on a Sunday, and now you're waiting for your luggage, which comes out on Tuesday. And by the time you get home, it's late, and I get home and I'm tired. It's after midnight. This is when I'm retiring, after midnight. Maybe I flew from, say, the other part of the country. I'm exhausted. I got the plane all over me. You know that feeling you get off a plane? I'm hungry. I want to see my wife. I want to go to sleep. I'm retired at night. Do I get a pass? I gave myself permission to give myself a pass. And God ruined that one right away. When I put my head on the pillow, I hear his voice going, "So, how was your weekend?" Back good, belly good. People are nice. No delays. You're not going to say thank you. Okay, see you in the morning. But I was warned about the nightly review. There's some questions here we ask. Trust me, I'm doing this a long time. It takes 5 minutes. And here's the thing I learned. Because I'm active with step 10 in cleaning up my day, there's been plenty of times there's nothing to write at night. Unless suddenly my mind gives me something ridiculous that I start to embrace. And sometimes I get up and go write and go pray and go back to sleep. But if my day is pretty clear, there's very little to do at night as far as writing this, answering all these questions. What I need to pay attention to, and I'm grateful I do, is praying, even just giving thanks. For newcomers, help is a whole prayer. If it's sincere. Help is a whole prayer. It's just as powerful as reciting the Lord's Prayer, if it's sincere. In fact, I'd rather say help and be sincere than say the Lord's Prayer and I'm just checking in. I give God thanks for the day. I didn't get drunk today. Or if I've gotten so far away from that, I've taken that for granted now. Thank you, God, for this day. I mean, at night, I ask God, if you see fit that I should wait tomorrow morning, please show me the way to stay clean and sober and carry the vision of your will to my activities. I do that at night because there's no guarantee I'm waking up tomorrow. I know I like to think I'm waking up. I think I got a pretty good shot, but I don't know. So I check in with God about that at night. I do. I've been doing it for years. If you see fit that I should wait tomorrow morning. It's the last thing I say before I go to bed. After the thank yous for another day. I'm not going to give, I'm going to do my best not to give alcoholism a leg up on me because it takes no prisoners. It doesn't care. It'll take me, it'll take my wife, it'll take my brothers, it'll take my family, our family, it'll take my friends, and it keeps going. It's like a cancer that's spreading really fast. And all I had to do was just keep spiritually fit. It's not much. Mark used to tell us what we had to do to keep the drunk on compared to what I have to do to stay sober. Staying sober is like kissing a newborn on the cheek compared to the wreckage out there that just keeps accumulating. So my retiring at night, sometimes if my wife and I are home and it's 7 o'clock and we're home for the night, we have the nights where we stay home. 8 o'clock, I'm retiring. That's it. I'm done for the day. Watch some TV or read or write or listen, but I'm pretty much done for the day. So I'll do my practice then, rather than waiting till my head hits the pillow because it's hard to get out of bed and go do that. I'm tired. And sometimes my practice, as I said earlier, is 1 o'clock in the morning. Also, I'll share with you this. Those nights where you do everything you're supposed to. You do your inventory, you call your sponsor, you work with sponsors, you go to a meeting, you speak at a meeting. You make coffee, you agree to it, everything good. And around 2 o'clock, you wake up with dread all over you. Something bad, your mind imagines is going to happen about a problem down the road, and you're just replaying it. I don't have enough money. Oh, no. I'm never going to make it. I know this job's going to end. I know they're leaving me. That kind of stuff. As you get older, you get the nights where, how many more years do I have? I'm really having a good time. I don't even want to think about it. And you're up. And your eyes are staring at the ceiling. And you try to go to sleep, and it just gets worse. Those are the nights I've gotten up out of bed, go into my prayer room on bended knees, and I just spend time with God. Father, I'm afraid again. I'm scared. I'm angry. I wrote an inventory. I still can't figure out the inventory. I need you right now. I don't know what to do. I'm just settling to get to sleep. And like a little kid who's afraid of the boogeyman in the corner, when the sun comes up, it all goes away. What was that? But I've done that. My wife, I've awakened sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, and I go into our prayer room, and she's writing out prayers, 2-way prayers, and praying. It's always about turning in order to go out. I hope I never get so well that I got too well for God. That I don't need it. It's unbelievable. I've met a lot of folks over the years who I considered, and part of the expression, spiritual giants. And those folks are more transparent, more cards on the table face up than someone who isn't, who pretends everything's cool. I kicked the dog, I hit the kids, I fought with the wife, I quit my job, I go to AA, how you doing? I'm having a great day, everything's good. The spiritually fit guy, not only he wouldn't do that, but if it hit a couple of hiccups, they'll come in and say, you got a minute, we go outside, I don't know what I screwed up today. Because there's no ego. God's arrested that. That's why it's so freeing. Page 43 in the big book tells me that I'm 100% hopeless apart from divine help. That's a very bold statement. There's a doctor in hospital in New York, I can't think of the name of it, who was observing us and made this statement. 100% hopeless apart from divine help. And there's another quote that goes, there is no security in my future apart from God. Simply. The 11th step is for me enhancing this awakening I've had, because the awakening we talk about, having had a spiritual awakening, having had in step 12, it's been given to me somewhere in the steps, but guaranteed in 10, there's been this awakening. We're in the world of the spirit. I need to be able to articulate to you what it's like living in the world of the spirit, or to a sponsee what it's like living there. Not perfect, because I'm far from perfect, but the experiences I've had in there. And it talks about on awakening. It says we think about the 24 hours ahead and we consider our plans for this. Two different things. When I look at my day, my 10th step, my 11th step, where I fell short and what I need to do, my corrective measures for the next morning, that's what I'm thinking about. I need to be more kind today. I need to be more considerate today. I need to not indulge so much with food today. And then I consider my plans. Okay, got to get to the gym, got to get to work, got to get to a meeting, go to the dry cleaner, pick up the kids, things like that. Those are my plans for the day. It tells me before I do anything. I ask God to direct my thinking. So God's in charge. Now, my 11th step over the years has changed a whole bunch. When I first got here, I pray, but I didn't know anything about meditation. And so 2 minutes in meditation felt like about a year. And the thing about going quiet meditation, I quickly was able to touch all the noise in my head. I didn't realize how much noise I was operating within the head until I tried to get quiet and said, oh my God, it's really noisy in here. And I've been talking over like a loud TV for a long time. And I was forced into this thing for 2 minutes. And I was taught about posture and breath. And someone started me with 2 minutes, and I went to 3 minutes and 4 minutes and 5 minutes and so on. And after a while, the body kind of like, it's like, let's go meditate. And that has grown over the years. It kind of sets a tone for me for the rest of the day when I'm in prayer meditation. Now, I will tell you what happened to me along the way is I start to accumulate stuff for meditation by listening to other people speak, going to seminars, reading books, listening to stuff. And so I got a hold of candles. AAs love candles. We all love candles. A lot of candles, candlelight meetings, candles on the table. So I got candles for my little altar where I pray, and I had candles. And then I got in touch with some folks, and they talked about sage purification. So I bought sage. Almost set the house on fire one time. I got sage going. I got candles going. I got in hold of some meditation CDs. So I got the CDs going. I got the sage burning candles going. And then I got these gongs and these bells and these, you rub the bowl and I'm rubbing the bowl and I'm done, and I'm conducting an orchestra. Now, here's what happened. Not only I'm doing that became more important than what I'm supposed to be doing. So I got to get more sage. I can't do this without sage. I need more candles. And I'm actually fell into, if I burn enough sage, and I light enough candles, and I hit the bell enough, I'm going to have a great day. And if I read 24-hour book for men, 24-hour book if you're from New York, it's just a baseball bat and a picture of a baseball bat. If I read, Upper Room, all the one-page thingies that take a long time if you start to accumulate books, how to read all of that stuff on top of it, then I meditate. And here's how it happened. I was driving to work one time and went, oh man, I forgot, daily reflections, and I thought I had to go home and read that page to go to work. And I said, something's wrong. And I called my sponsor. He says, you're an idol worshiper. It happens to a lot of us. I stopped doing all of that. I have sage, I have all that stuff. I don't even read in the morning till I'm done with meditation. There's a couple of readings I'd like to do every morning. And then I go from there. Sometimes I don't read. But I pray and meditate. But anything I do, any kind of reading or listening is after I'm done with the practice, because I'm not attached to that stuff anymore. That stuff's not going to make me have a good day. It'll position me better. It's nice to do, But God is the one I'm supposed to be worshiping, not how much sage I'm burning. That's for me. I'm almost out of time, but if I can just squeeze in a quick story. We'll finish this up next week, God willing. I was 3 years old. I lived in Red Hook, Brooklyn, on the corner of Walcott and Van Brunt Street. We lived up above a luncheonette, Mike's Luncheonette. My brother was around 2 years old. I was 3. My mom, my dad was at work, and I heard a commotion. I climbed down the steps, went outside, and my mom was just off the corner having a nervous breakdown. What I know is a nervous breakdown. And the ambulance was, if you guys remember, us older folks, the Cadillac ambulances, backed up over the sidewalk and put her in. And Mike, the owner of the luncheonette, was dear friends with the family. He covered my eyes. He didn't want me to see that. I was frozen with fear. And I don't know how much later, I was in a hospital with my grandparents. My dad and mom were in another room with some doctors. I remember this funny jacket my mom had on. So it was a straight jacket. And again, I'm frozen in fear. And years later, I'm meditating, and I get a vision of this statue of a woman holding an infant. And that was it. And the next day, I went into meditation again, and it happened again. Around the third day, that statue became lifelike, and the infant she was holding was me. And the information I got, which was contrary to the information I was getting from other people, I wanted to go back there and say, no, leave the past there. The information I got from the saint, it was the Blessed Mother, if anyone's interested, was to go back there. And I remember the room filling up with the scent of roses. And I didn't know what that meant. And I spoke to Mark. He said, okay, I don't want you to tell anyone about this because you're going to talk it away. We need to go there. And there was a guy, Joe H., in town, and he took me to that spot. And I went down to that spot. There's all instructions from a meditation, the value of meditation. And I was with Joe, and I'm walking around, and I can feel where I stood at 3 years old. It was called Making Peace with My Past, by the way. And I went over to this wall, which was different now, where my mom was punching this wall, and the hand was all bloody, and I put my hand on the wall, and I made a prayer to my mom, yeah? And I came back to that spot, and I thought I was done, and I went to get in the car, and something stopped me from getting in the car. And I leaned in, and I says, Joe, I can't get in the car, and I don't know why. He hopped out, and he walked around, and we prayed. We got on bended knees, both of us, off a street corner, and we're praying. And this was like a rough neighborhood now. And he's walking around, and I'm not sure what to do. And he says, you need to look in the concrete over here on the sidewalk. And he had he was laughing about it. He said, you need to look here. And when I went over to the side of the concrete, someone, or some power, had written in the concrete, my brother who was 2, his name is John, and what was written in the concrete was, to Peter and John with love, and 3 little X's underneath in the concrete. And at that moment, that's when that shell broke open, and I began to weep. And knowing that I know by my Creator happened to me again, because God feels the soul when it hurts. Joe told that story in a couple of talks. I'm glad he did, because it almost can sound like hocus pocus when it happened. It was in the concrete. And we left there, and I went to see my brother at his apartment. I said, I need to talk to you. This is what, my friend Joe's down in the car. You can come down and talk to him, but this is what just took place. And my brother, who never cries, fell apart. Because both of us knew, although someone could have written that in the concrete who knew Peter and John, both of us knew it came from another place. Where God says, I got you. I know your heart hurts and it's heavy. I got you. And this is proof that I'm with you. That's all I got.